Today is August the 8th, 2024. My name is Gloria White. I'm with Heritage Museum of Montgomery County, and today our guest is Commander Marcey Phillips of VFW Post 4709 in Conroe, Texas. Good afternoon, Marcey. How are you?
I'm doing well, Miss Gloria. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Good. Fine. Where were you born?
I was born in Houston, Texas.
Okay, in Houston, Texas. Tell us a little bit about growing up in Houston.
So I was born in Houston, raised in Pearland initially, and then moved to a tiny town called East Bernard. And it's a one blinking red light kind of town with, a graduating class of 69 people. So I grew up in a town where everybody knew everybody's name and everybody's business.
East Bernard, Texas, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, tell us about your parents and growing up, and what were their occupation?
So my mom was a medical secretary for an ophthalmologist, and very impactful to me. My mom is a rock. She is an amazing woman, strong as can be, and so much energy, and just really a hero in my eyes in so many ways, because she's really inspired me to drive myself to be more than people expect, to do more than people expect as much as possible. Whenever I was little, I wanted to be an ophthalmologist, so I used to go with her to work, and the doctor was Dr. Quayle. He was amazing. Actually let me watch surgery whenever I was 12 and the whole 9 yards, and that was where my career path was going. Whenever I was little, that was my trajectory. My dad worked for the City of Houston Parks and Recreation Department. He worked there for 33 years, and that man put in countless hours making sure that, whether it was youth sports or adult sports or whatever, he always had that passion to have recreation be the forefront, because it is so important to our health. And so he really pushed that. And my dad was an Army vet too. Okay. I'm fourth generation, so he really kind of instilled a lot of those foundational aspects of the military in me at a younger age. So.
Do you have any siblings?
I have an older brother.
Okay. Tell us about your brother. Did he follow in your dad's footsteps?
No, he didn't. My brother, he actually runs a very successful construction company. He does home remodels, outdoor kitchens, whole 9 yards. He's very, very successful with that, and he's an awesome dad and awesome brother.
Okay, so tell us about when did you decide, what was your parents and your brothers feeling when you decided to join the military?
So it was a little bit, I did things a little unconventionally. I actually got pregnant my senior year in high school, and had my kiddo. Then 9/11 happened. And so there I am with this 9-month-old, and I had military aspirations a little, before I had him, but then I thought, well, I could never join because I have a baby now, so they'd never take me. But after 9/11, I was just drawn more and more to serve. So I decided to go ahead and talk to a recruiter, and that was when my son was about a year old, and they told me I had to wait till he was 2, and my parents, oh my goodness, they were so supportive. A little nervous about me going, a little nervous about, being a single mom and leaving my son behind. I mean, so was I. I was completely nervous about that. But it was just kind of this feeling that family can give you that makes you realize you can accomplish anything you want. That's my family. They are the people that just push you and tell you, you can do this. If you have the idea, you can execute. And that support from my family is what really drove me. I had the heart to want to do it, but my dad was a little nervous about being a female in the military because of his experience, but he was very supportive, and they were very motivational with me.
So you had to wait until your son was 2 years old before you could join.
Yes.
So in the meantime, what did you do any kind of work before?
I did.
Okay.
So they have kind of an orientation. So I joined the National Guard and got to go and be part of the unit and learn how they did everything. I got to go ahead and sign up and then go through like an orientation program. So my son turned 2 on December 14th. I signed my paperwork December 18th. And then there was about a 6-month period before I shipped to basic training. And during that 6-month period, it was kind of like I think they called it, if I'm not mistaken, I think they called it BTOP, Basic Training Orientation Program. And they got us ready. They exercised and, you know, the fundamentals of the military, Army values, everything. They kind of taught us all of that before we shipped.
Wow. So let's talk about your early days of service. And you said, can you tell us again, when did you actually join the military in exact branch that you joined?
So I joined December 18th, 2002 to the Texas Army National Guard. And that was until December, I guess 17th, I think is what it ended up being, 2010. So it's, you know, it was a fun ride. I enjoyed it.
So why did you choose that branch?
That was what my dad did.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I talked to different recruiters to try to see what would allow me as a single mom to continue to be a mom and be in his life, and but also serve, the National Guard, Army National Guard recruiters were the ones that were able to explain the whole process, the power of attorneys, the family care plans, all of the different things that the Army National Guard could offer me in order to allow me to continue, still being a mom.
Okay. So when you did your basic training, where did you do your basic training?
I was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Okay. And so how long tell us a little bit about your basic training.
Basic training it's the same basic training, whether you're National Guard, you're regular Army, it's the same. So whenever we went, I was in gender integrated training. I was not in an all-female basic training. It was males and females. We got the first floor, they got second and third floor, but our platoons were all integrated. So that gender integrated training was it was interesting. We had some guys that felt like we shouldn't be there as
because
females.
you were a female.
Mm-hmm. So as a female, we did have a few guys that acted like we shouldn't be there. But I think we were able to prove ourselves to a lot of them. And we had one drill sergeant that really helped drive the point home that we were supposed to be there, and that it didn't matter what gender any of us were. We all bleed red. Mm-hmm. So none of that matters. Race, age, gender, creed, it's all just people who have a heart to serve their country, and that's all that matters.
So you talked about, I know we talked about the gender integrated training, and you had you mentioned some incident. I don't know if you would like to share that, and I thought that was really hilarious about what the sergeant told.
Sure.
Yeah. So could you share that?
I would love to. Drill Sergeant McIntyre, I don't know his first name. His first name was Drill Sergeant, apparently. But Drill Sergeant McIntyre, he kind of got tired of all the guys giving all the females a hard time. So we were all in our platoon room one day, and he came in and he started handing out tampons. And we were all like, what is happening? And he ended up telling every single male, this is an accountable item. From now on, you've got your notebook, your dog tags, your pen, all of these accountable items that you have to have on you. And this is one of them. If I ever catch you without it, you better have a good explanation for which female battle buddy you gave it to. Because we are all here to help each other. We are all brothers and sisters. In that foxhole and in that fight, it doesn't matter who's what gender. We will take care of each other. And that really drove the point home to, I think, a lot of the males that didn't like us there, that it didn't matter, because he had been part of the Black Hawk Down situation when he was with 10th Mountain. Mm-hmm. And he talked to us about how important it was for all of us to be able to work together. And he was able to drive that point home with tampons.
Oh. Okay, so what kind of training did you get while you were doing your basic training? Any specialized training?
No specialized training in basic. So in basic training, we all are infantry. We're all taught to fight. That's that's our goal, is to come out of there and be grunts, and we all fight the same. It's what makes the green grass grow? Blood. So it's all driven home. The Army values, the creed, everything is driven home at that point. They break you down and build you all back up to the same level. So we're all doing the same ruck marches, same obstacle courses, everything's the same. And so that training is just your foundation in the military.
So once you finish basic training, what was the next step?
So the next step is AIT, which is Advanced Individual Training, and I did that in Fort Gordon, Georgia, and I was in communications. So it was a 31 Romeo. They changed the classification to 25 Quebec, which is basically the acronym or the nomenclature that they use for multi-channel transmission system operator / maintainer, which is just fancy for a radio guy. So I was just a radio guy.
So once you finished, you did your basic training, did your AIT, you said AIT
Yes,
training. So once you completed the training, what was your next step in the military? What did you do after that?
Next step, I came back to my National Guard unit, spent several hurricanes going, several floods and things like that, and then we started to ramp up for deployment to Iraq, and that ramp up started in 2005.
Okay, so tell us again, when did you actually start training? It was
2002
Okay.
was when I joined. Basic training was in 2003, and then we had several different things in between, and then the deployment was in 2005-06.
Did you receive any promotion during your training time?
So I went in as an E3. I already had an associate's degree, and then got E4 pretty quick after that, and then E5 whenever I was on my deployment in Iraq.
Okay.
So.
What was the hardest part of the military lifestyle for you to adapt to?
Definitely leaving my son behind.
Okay, now you said you went to Iraq. We're going to talk about the service time in Iraq, and it was in 2005.
Yes, ma'am.
And you served in the U.S. Army, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And what were some of your recollections about that experience during that time?
In Iraq, one of the biggest things was being communications. We did secure and non-secure radio, phone, and internet, and that was a blessing because I was able to. Back in the day, we Skyped. We didn't have FaceTime and stuff like that, but I was able to Skype with my son. So my parents were the ones taking care of him while I was deployed, and they would, because of the time change, it would be like 4:30 in the morning, and they'd pick that kid up, and he'd be half asleep in front of the camera with his hair all crazy, and and they sacrificed a whole lot of time and energy and effort in order to make sure that I just got to see him. Every other week or so, we would try to make sure that we could get, a little bit of time seeing each other's face. But one of the hardest things was, whenever we'd be on Skype and then we'd have incoming or something like that, any type of explosion in the background, and you always want to protect your family, even if it's just protecting them from what they hear, what they don't know, so it's like slam the laptop closed as quick as you can, handle what you have to handle, but then trying to let them know, hey, I'm good, sorry I had to get off, because you don't know what's going through their minds, because they hear something in the background of that video or that phone call, and that their minds are racing, their hearts are racing, and they're wondering if you're okay. So I think that was probably the hardest part, was trying to balance being able to communicate with them and trying to make sure that I still let them know, that I was okay. So that was important, but I missed them like crazy. So.
Yes, yeah, and I can only imagine, the Skype, some people might not know the younger generation might not know what Skype is. But, and you Skyping with your family and your son, and then all of a sudden, in the background, I hear something exploding, you have to immediately, so,
right.
Yeah, so, I know they prayed for you during that time.
Oh, I'm sure.
I know they were praying for you.
And I kind of look at it like, my grandfather, I didn't get to know him. I was 2 when he passed away, and like I said, I'm 4th generation. He was a World War II vet, and I kind of started this project at one point where I was taking his letters and taking his diary, and I could look at his letters and they would be so positive and upbeat, and he'd, hey, Mom and Dad, tell Sis I love her, found this thing for her, I'll send it home. And then you'd read his diary and it would say, lost 2 friends today. And so that was very influential to me, where I could see how important it was for him to maintain a positive, just any kind of positivity for the family, so they weren't worried about him. And even though he kind of had to put on a front, you could tell in his diary it wasn't a good day, but by his letters you had no idea. So he was protecting his family in those letters, and I thought, wow, what a remarkable person. What a great spirit, what a great character that you have at such a young age. He didn't even finish high school. And this amazing character to be so protective and so loving. And that's what we should all strive for, is taking care of our fellow man, whether it's family or friends or whatever. It's that character is so big to me that it's something I've always strived to accomplish the same thing, even in a small part.
And you think about that, you say his diary, and he know what was going on, but he didn't want to share that with his family back at home, because he didn't want them to worry about it. And that's amazing. Yeah. So what kind of friendships did you make during your time, and do you have friendships to this day that you served with?
I do. I have some amazing friendships, some awesome people I still talk to all the time, and feel like I can, if I'm traveling to San Antonio, I'm calling Becky. If I'm, depending on where I'm going, I've got friends all over the place that I can reach out to. And those friendships, there's always a funny story. There's always something that we can go back and say, you remember when you did this and how stupid you looked? And, and we can just give each other a hard time and pick up right where we left off. It's almost like we never stopped. And that camaraderie that the military gives you is something that's priceless. You can't find it a lot of places, and when you can, you shouldn't let go of it.
Do you recall any particular humorous or unusual events during your time of service when you were in Iraq?
Oh man, so there were some pretty humorous things happening, and I had my best friend. I got deployed with my husband before we got married. We were dating, we were in separate companies, and then they merged my company into his. I highly recommend people don't ever deploy with somebody that they love, because that is a challenge, to say the least. But my best friend, she found some chews, an area where we thought we were going to get to live, but we got tents instead. My husband called that, because this was his 3rd deployment. And he said, I guarantee you, they keep saying you're going to get chews, but you won't get chews, you're going to get tents. And we were like, no, they told us we'll get chews, it's fine. Chews, for anyone who doesn't know, it's Connex housing unit. It's basically a rail car that they've adapted, put an air conditioner in and a door and a couple windows if you're lucky, and that's where you can sleep several people, and it's a little bit more secure than a tent. And he just kept teasing. He's like, nope, I promise you're going to end up in tents. And I'll be danged, we ended up in tents. And so we were trying to make the best of that situation, and my friend found an Air Force unit that was moving out of some chews, and she could reappropriate all kinds of things from anybody. She was very good at getting items and moving them into our area. Well, she couldn't get all of their stuff, and she's like, you have to come with me, I need your help. And I'm like, okay. So I go with her, and all of a sudden we've got TVs and a little mini refrigerator and air mattresses. Oh my goodness, we were so excited about these air mattresses. And I was like, why are they giving us all this stuff? How are we getting away with this. She's like, don't ask questions. I just need you to go to that one and tell them that you're there because you need to pick them up. She had told all of these Air Force guys that I had a particular job where I didn't wear all my clothes. She told them all I had, before the deployment, I was a dancer. I was not. I never have been. But she told them all that and tried to get them to give us all of these things because of that. And I was like, and they were throwing things at us, and we were trying to figure out what was going on. It wasn't just me, it was a couple other females that she brought over. And I was like, why are we getting all of these things? Yeah, because she lied to them and told them that the three of us were dancers previous to that, and I don't know what they thought was going to happen.
But y'all got air mattresses and
oh, we got all kinds of stuff. We got air mattresses, a refrigerator, and 2 TVs. I was like, this is insane. These
so
guys
y'all
are
in
nice.
Iraq, right?
We were in Iraq, and I was like, when she told me what she told them, I was like, oh, you better go clarify right now. I'll give every bit of this back.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. That's pretty. That's pretty.
That
funny.
that one was pretty funny.
So y'all are still friends today, right?
Oh yes, we are still good friends, but I still give her a hard time about that. And I'm like, you've got to make sure you're not telling people lies.
What was the best part of your service experience during that time?
During Iraq, the best part of my service experience during Iraq.
Was there a worst part?
There was definitely some worse parts. I guess the best part was probably the camaraderie and the fun that we had whenever we had downtime. We had one guy, Tyler Cruisin', and we used to call it Cruisin's Comedy Hour, and he would do impressions of all of us in our platoon. And he was good. He was hilarious. He got all of us down to the walk, down to the hand motions. I mean, he had everybody's likeness down very well, and that was probably one of the best parts. Was when we had that downtime, being able to just sit back and laugh at him, and he was quite entertaining.
So is there a worst part you would like to share?
The worst part, there was just several different rocket attacks and things like that were a little bit tough to deal with. We were very blessed in our unit. We didn't lose anybody. But, one of the things that wasn't bad then, but was bad later whenever I, got home, a lot of my guys called me Mom whenever I was there. So when I started having a lot of my flashbacks and things like that, and I would hear Mom, I would put my son into that situation in my nightmares. And I guess that was probably one of the harder parts, PTSD-wise, kind of dealing with all of it, was kind of reconciling some of those harder days when, your mind kind of plays tricks on you, and in a way. And I did look at those guys like they were my kids. I took care of a lot of them in a lot of different tasks that we had. And so when they would say Mom, and then I would hear that, after I would have my nightmares and stuff, it was hard because I would picture my son there. And so that was tough. That was a lot to get over. Even though you wake up and it's not real, it just kind of plays on a loop in your head sometimes. And it's hard to get out of your own head sometimes. So that's taken years of therapy to be able to say, but but that one has been an adjustment.
So let's talk about the end of your service. Do you recall the day it ended?
So I did a couple years.
And where you were when it ended?
I did a couple years inactive. So whenever I came back from Iraq, I remember that day like yesterday. I remember getting to see my family. I remember, getting to see my son finally for the first time in a year. Those things will never go away. Like, those memories are just stuck, and I love it because it was pretty magical. After that, I'm in my National Guard unit, And we've got hurricanes like crazy. We've got, floods. We're down all the way in the valley. We're, all the way over in Orange doing points of distribution. So it never really slowed down. We got back in 2006, at the very end of 2006. I guess it was right at Thanksgiving, right? Yeah, right around Thanksgiving. And then we went right into that next flood that came up, and then the next hurricane season, and we just kept going. So 2007 hurricane season was a little busy, and so I stayed gone from the family again, and my husband had gotten injured on our deployment, and so we weren't married yet, but he was having several surgeries and going through a lot of stuff. And then after we did get married, same kind of situation, more surgeries, one kiddo. It was a lot. So we went through 2 big hurricane seasons.
Was it, you said 2000, do you remember the hurricane names? Was it 2000? You didn't go to Katrina, did you?
No, we had Ike, Edward, I can't remember all of them.
I do remember Ike. I relate Ike with Tina.
Yes. Oh yeah. It was volatile.
yeah.
That was 2008 season.
Yeah, 2008 when Ike came.
Yeah, and then 2007 season, I think we had Edward. I can't remember all of them. I was down at an HEB distribution center down in the valley at one point, and then I was in a high school locker room on the Louisiana border at one point. We were back and forth all along the coast, and it was a busy season that particular season. And then 2008 hurricane season was kind of busy too. So it just kept going, and that's, it kept me busy.
Okay. Did you join any veterans organizations?
Oh yeah.
Okay, talk about that.
Yeah. So I've joined several veteran organizations, and it's kind of like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It's like, this one's not quite right, this one's not quite right, but eventually you find your fit. I found my fit in the VFW, big time. So I'm a life member of DAV. I'm a member of American Legion. I can't afford their life membership. I'm a member of several veteran organizations, but the VFW by far has been just right for me. And I've really found a purpose there in a lot of ways. It's the closest I've found camaraderie-wise to my unit. It's the closest that I've found to a family out of any other service organization that I've been in. And I'm very blessed because I get to see the change that we make. So I keep a little jar with marbles behind my desk, and I move a marble into this little vase every time we help somebody. And so that's important to me because I can visually see the help that we've given, and that means a lot, because when I think about other things that I've done, I haven't been able to help as many people, and this one gives me that opportunity. The VFW has been huge in my life, and I've watched it save lives, and so it's my passion.
How long, when were you, I don't know if they elect you, or when did you become commander of Post 4709 here in Conroe?
So, Post 4709 in Conroe, commander year started 2022. So, yes. So this year that I'm commander will end in 2025. So I am hoping this is the last year. I tried to step down last year too. It's a lot. A lot of people don't realize that our particular post, not every VFW is the same. Our particular post has 3 businesses in one, because you've got the VFW side, the fraternal side as a nonprofit. You've got the canteen, which is a fundraiser for the VFW, and then you've got bingo, which is another fundraiser for the VFW, which is charitable. All 3 of those things, I'm blessed to have people that help run all of that, because I don't have the time and energy to do it myself. So I have an amazing team of people that are part of our post that help run all of those things, and we couldn't do it without so many hands on deck. and it's a big undertaking.
So I know you just came back from the convention. You want to talk a little bit about the VFW convention?
Sure. So I wear a few different hats in the VFW. So I'm the post commander here in Conroe, the District 17 commander, and I'm on the training team for the Department of Texas. What that means is that there's several of us that kind of go out and help teach how the VFW works. We have different conventions, and the convention is where we vote on what our bylaws are, who leads our organization, and things like that. So we just had our national convention in Louisville, Kentucky, and we were able to elect our next slate of officers for next year, and we had some bylaw changes that were kind of sent up for approval, some that got approved, some that didn't, some regarding different eligibility in the VFW, but we're congressionally chartered, and a lot of people don't realize that in order for us to make any big changes, Congress has to be involved. So not a lot of organizations have the awesome ability to be congressionally chartered. So this is a wonderful thing, but it does kind of require a little bit more as far as making big changes to the organization. We've got to get a lot more people involved.
How has your military service impacted your feelings about war in the military in general?
Personally, if I could have stayed in, if I could have continued, I would have. Between my own health issues and my husband's health issues, after he got injured, it wasn't conducive to our family to continue. But I absolutely have so much pride in the military. As far as war goes, nobody likes war. Nobody likes it at all. But it's a job that is thankless in a lot of ways, especially our Vietnam veterans came back and weren't thanked. And so one thing that I want everyone to kind of keep in mind is war is not the option of the soldier or the veteran, the sailor, airman, marine, or guardian. They don't get that choice. That also comes from Congress. That also comes from higher up. War is not a decision that I think anybody makes lightly. And I think that we need to remember that the people who actually have to go out and execute, those people don't make that decision. They're doing their job. And it's our job to make sure that we take care of them and we thank them and treat them with the utmost respect for a job well done.
Wow, that's amazing. First, I want to thank you for your recollection of your military service and the information you shared with us about your time doing the military before, during, and afterwards. But I have a few more questions I'd like to ask you before our interview is over.
Sure.
Is there anything you would like to add that we have not covered in this interview?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, and what would you like people to remember about your story that you have shared with us today?
I guess if anything, it's the importance of taking care of each other, the importance of, the way my grandpa did it, that heart for service and the heart for making sure that you put other people first in a lot of ways. That's something that I think we've lost a lot of touch with. Helping each other out, serving each other, taking care of each other is paramount to our society being successful. And so I think if we can all do that, if we can all take care of each other, we'll be much happier people.
Okay, one more question. What do you wish more people knew about veterans?
Oh man, we have a very dark sense of humor. And so a lot of times when we're cracking jokes and we sound like we may not care, it's not that. That's how we deal with things. A lot of veterans are misunderstood. A lot of veterans self-medicate, whether it's through drugs or alcohol, or other vices. A lot of veterans, it's how they handle the trauma that they've dealt with. And I think that if we can take the time to sit and listen to each other, it might be easier for veterans to open up when there's no judgment, when when we crack our crazy jokes and people are like, oh my gosh, that's so weird. There's a reason behind it. A lot of times it's how we've learned to deal with that death of that loved one, or the death of that battle buddy, or some hard day downrange that we don't want to talk about. So we crack the ugly joke and we say the inappropriate things sometimes, because it's how we deal with what we've had to deal with and what we've had to see. And so a little bit of grace, I think, for vets goes a long way, because a lot of veterans, I think, are very misunderstood because of that little side of us. A lot of times people are like, oh, that homeless veteran, you know, they just won't go get a job. Well, that homeless veteran has been self-medicating for a long time, and it's how they're dealing with their trauma, and they're unable to hold down a job. So they may be homeless by choice, but that homeless by choice is because they don't know how to deal with the trauma that they've had. And they don't trust the government sometimes to give them the medical assistance that they need. So there's a whole lot of different facets to us. We're very unique. We have a lot of unique needs and a lot of unique characteristics. And I think just a little bit of grace goes a long way in helping eliminate the mental health stigma that a lot of veterans have. And the World War II vets, they suffered in silence. The Vietnam vets were treated terribly whenever they got home. So we make it, at least in our post and in several that I've been to, we make it our mission to say welcome home, because so many weren't welcomed home. And that little tiny thing, I've been told by several vets, that tiny little welcome home, or that tiny how are you today, the buddy check that we do, that has made a big difference in the mental health side of things. So if people who are not veterans can just understand that sometimes asking, how are you? You can talk to me if you need to. No judgment here. Those things, that little bit of grace will help people to open up and hopefully help eliminate that mental health stigma that kind of is on all of us.
Well, thank you so much. So give them grace. Thank you
grace.
so much for your time and for this interview, and may God bless you and He keep you.
Thank you, Miss Gloria. I appreciate you, and God bless you too.
God bless. Thank you.